Okay, you guys, take your seats. Welcome to reading. Today we are going to talk about folktales, and specifically we're going to explore the difference between folktales in the same realm from different cultures. So we're going to look at a couple fables from Germany and one from Japan, and then we're going to see how they're related and just talk about how those work together. So I'm going to start first by showing you some pictures of some folktales or fables that you might be familiar with.
Beauty and the Beast.
Yep, Beauty and the Beast, right? We all know that story. But did you know that there are also similar stories from Germany? One called the Little Nut Twig, or the Enchanted Frog, the Singing Rose from Austria, Zelinda and the Monster from Italy. So there are lots of different versions of Beauty and the Beast, but we know Beauty and the Beast, but it does exist in other cultures. Okay, how about this one?
Tortoise and the Hare.
Good, you're doing great. Tortoise and the Hare, we know. What's the moral of the Tortoise and the Hare?
Slow and steady wins the race.
A little slower, please.
Slow.
Yeah, that's right. Slow and steady wins the race. It exists all around the world. Fox and the Crab in Germany. How about, why does the buffalo walk slowly and tread gently? The race of the buffalo and the hare from Romania. Okay. There's an American Indian fable called Two Fast Runners. There's the crane and the crab from Fiji. You get the idea. My point is, these folktales exist all around the world, and we know our version, but it's a good idea to explore the versions from other cultures as well. So what I've got for you guys today are three versions actually, of a fable or a folktale originally called The Fisherman and His Wife. So I'm going to give those to you guys here. There are three different versions, so you're going to read them, and then we'll regroup and we'll talk about some questions, and you guys will be able to share your impressions with your classmates, and then we'll come back together and talk as a whole group again. Okay, so can anybody tell me what we're going to do now? Mindy?
Read it with our group, and then we'll talk about it.
Yep, you're going to read it by yourself, and then we'll regroup. I'll split you into groups. And then I'll give you some more questions. So what I want you to be thinking about while you're reading this is two things. Number one, if there are any unfamiliar vocab words or phrases, and try to figure out what they mean by using the words around them as clues, right? So see if you can figure out some new vocabulary words. And number two, what is the overall main idea of your folktale, or the moral, as you might say in these fables. Okay, so take a few minutes, take about 10 minutes to read these quietly. If you'd like to go visit the quiet corner and read alone over there, you may do that. Got it? Okay. Splits a little bit, like holes in the boards. So those are not okay. Would you feel comfortable sharing your group?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, guys, now that we've had a chance to read it, I'm going to have you group up into groups of 4. And we're going to do this randomly, and so that each group has at least one version of each folktale. All right? So then what you have to do is retell or summarize to the members in your group how your story went. Okay? All right, you guys are one group. Now, your question, the first question that I want you guys to think about, and you're going to have to report back to the group, is what were the similarities between your three fables, and what were the differences? Okay, so you can tell me different characters, or how the plot was different, or if there was a different message or meaning. All right? Okay, I'm going to go to the next group now. Okay, you guys, this group, I want you guys to be thinking about new vocabulary words. New vocabulary words, and come with a couple that you can tell to the whole group. All right?
Okay.
I'm going to go to a different group now. I'll give them the third question.
Okay.
Okay. You guys, I want you guys to come up with just a couple sentences of what you think the moral or the main idea of the story is. All right? Does everyone feel comfortable sharing with the whole group if I call on you? Okay. Okay, good. Okay, I've seen some good discussion. I've heard some good things. Now, as we share with the whole group, the question that I've asked you guys to consider while reading, I've got a little worksheet that you can fill out, and you'll turn this in at the end of the class as you walk out. And so if you'll notice there are 3 key points that I want you guys to find and listen for when you're listening to the other groups, and then write them on there. Number 1, I want you to have 2 new vocabulary words or phrases. There could be some group might decide to put a phrase that they weren't sure what that meant. You can use new vocabulary words or phrases and write down their meaning. Okay, number 2, I would like you to list 1 similarity and 1 difference between the fables. You don't have to do a difference between all 3, but at least 2 of the 3. And number 3, 2 sentences on what you think the moral or the main idea of this folktale is. Okay, so can I get a volunteer to repeat back to me those instructions? What's the first thing we're going to look for?
Vocab.
Vocab. How many new vocab words or
2.
phrases? 2. Okay, second thing. Anybody? Rachel?
I don't remember.
Okay, the second thing we're going to look for is similarity and a difference between the stories. 1 similarity, 1 difference. And finally,
I know.
yeah, what we're supposed to, good, yeah. That's a moral or the main idea. What is the main idea of the story? Okay? So I'm going to start with group number 1 over here. First of all, will you tell us if you had any new vocabulary words? Any new vocabulary words or phrases from your story, and which story did it come from?
I don't know what the word prosperous means.
Prosperous, okay, which fable?
The stone cutter.
The stone cutter, so that was the Japanese one. Can you read us the sentence that it was used in?
I don't also, there's another word in the sentence.
Okay, good.
Now in the mountain dwelt a spirit which now and then appeared to men and helped them in many ways to become rich and prosperous. I don't know what dwelt or prosperous.
Okay, did your group talk about those words and figure out
They
some
didn't know.
clues that you might think could help you figure out what those words mean? First one was dwelt, okay, and the sentence went,
Now in the mountain dwelt a spirit.
now in the mountain dwelt a spirit. Anyone have any ideas?
It says it's in the mountain.
Yep, in the mountain. Has anyone heard of the word dwelling? A dwelling? Dwelling is like a residence or a home or a place where you live. So and this word dwelt comes from that word dwelling. So a spirit who lived in the mountain, who dwelt in the mountain. That could be one, that could be a new vocab word you could put down if you didn't know that one. And the second one?
Prosperous.
Okay, help them in many ways to become rich and prosperous. If we use the word rich as a clue, what could we assume about prosperous?
Rich. Happy?
Happy, yes. You could be happy would make you prosperous, I would say, in a sense. Anybody else in the back? How about successful? Successful, prosperous. You have had good success in your life. Good. Okay, group number 2. What similarities in your story did you find, or what differences between your stories?
Ours were both about fish.
Okay, good. And what was yours called?
Hans Doodledee.
Hans Doodledee, yeah. And yours was
The fisherman and his wife.
Fisherman and his wife. And they were both about a man and fish. So they used the same subject to get the message across. Okay? And what was different about yours? About any of the 3?
Mine was about stones.
Yours was about stones. Why do you think that yours might have been about stones, where theirs from Germany was about fishing?
I don't really know.
Anyone have any thoughts on that? Why might one country or one area, one culture choose to have their main character be a stone cutter and the other be a fisherman?
Fish.
They like fish? Do they have fish in Japan? Probably, yeah. I don't know, but we can make some guesses. Maybe that's just stone cutting is a big part of Japanese culture. Maybe fishing, when this was written, was a big part of German culture. So that's a good difference between the 2. Different characters getting the different message. And finally, What would you say would be the main idea of your story?
Think that you should be happy with what you have.
Why? What in the story leads you to say that?
Well, this man and his wife got very selfish and wanted more and more, and then finally the fish took it all away because they wanted more.
So we could say it's not good to be selfish.
Yes.
What's another word that we think of when we think of selfish and wanting things?
Greedy.
Greedy, yeah. So just be careful about being selfish and greedy. Good. Okay, so I hope you guys were listening and you got some good things to write down on your worksheet. I'll give you a few minutes to finish those up and you can hand them in on your way out. Thank you, everybody.
Boy,